Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaming on Caffeine. My name is Isaac and we are back for episode 34 of Feed the Beast Infinity Evolved Skyblock. Last episode we were working on automating the crafting process with Applied Energistics. We set up a bunch of ME interfaces around our molecular assemblers, and we also set up a bunch of ME interfaces on all of our machines over here so that we could teach our AE system how to craft using these machines. And since the end of last episode I've mostly done more of the same. I've added a bunch more ME interfaces to all of these machines over here. I brought the rock crusher downstairs and stuck an ME interface on that as well, so that we can now automate the process of creating crushed obsidian. Speaking of which, I also put a storage bus on the cache over here with all of our obsidian in, so that our AE system can access that obsidian and use it to make things like the crushed obsidian. And the crushed obsidian is used to make machine frames, which are made over here in the assembly table, which I have also automated since the end of last episode. It now knows how to make some basic chipsets and how to make a basic machine frame. And what I want to work on in today's episode, at least for the first part of today's episode, is I want to work a little bit more on Applied Energistics, and I want to set up a wireless terminal, because this is a really cool item that's going to allow us to access all of the items stored within our AE system, or all of the items that our AE system can access. For example, all of these ingots and all of the obsidian, as well as everything within inside these ME drives, wirelessly wherever we are on the island. So I could be over here working on blood magic and then just be able to open up the wireless terminal and get anything from within our system without having to run back to the crafting terminal in order to get it. So in order to set this up, we are going to need a few different components. The first thing we're going to need is, of course, the wireless terminal itself. To make this, we need one wireless receiver, one ME terminal, and one dense energy cell. Thankfully, all of this stuff is fairly easy to make. The wireless receiver is 3 iron ingots, 1 quartz fiber, and 1 fluix pearl. A fluix pearl is just some fluix crystals, some fluix dust, and an ender pearl. I'm going to grab 2 of these because we're also going to need to make one of these ME wireless access points, and this thing also requires a wireless receiver. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 of those to start with here. Back to the wireless terminal, we also need an ME terminal, which we have made before, and so should be able to make fairly easily. I think we're a little bit low on quartz glass, so I'll make a little bit more of that, and then see about making another one of these ME terminals here. We do, of course, need to get the illuminated panels. We can then use that illuminated panel in conjunction with a formation core and an annihilation core. I know we've made a lot of these recently, but I think I used almost all of them on making my ME interfaces between episodes, so I'll make some more there real quick. That gets us the ME terminal, and then finally, the last thing is the dense energy cell. This is made with 8 normal energy cells and 1 calculation processor, and a normal energy cell is just some fluix dust, some Certus quartz crystals, and that Certus quartz wrench. So let's go ahead and grab at least 8 of those. Are we going to have to keep putting that back in every time? That is a little bit annoying. But once we got all of those, we can put those back into the AE system, and we should be able to craft all that together to get a dense cell, and then we should be able to combine all 3 of those items up to get the wireless terminal. Nice. Now, like I said, we're also going to need to make the ME wireless access point, and for this, it's just a wireless receiver, a calculation processor, and some glass cable. We've got all of that stuff already. We can just take that out. And then finally, the last thing, or the second to last thing maybe, that we're going to need to make to actually get this thing to work is a security terminal. This thing over here, and this is essentially going to allow us to link our wireless terminal to our AE system, because multiple people on the server will have multiple wireless access terminals. We need to tell our terminal that we want it to access this AE system, and so to make this we need some more iron ingots, some more glass cable, 1 ME chest, which is a little bit expensive, but I think we might actually have almost everything it takes to make this. We can make an ME terminal real easily, and then everything else we already have, so we can take that out and put the wrench back in. And then other than that, I think the only hard part about this crafting recipe is the 16k ME storage component, and that is because to make this you need 3 4k ME storage components, and to make those you need 3 ME 1k storage components, and so we are going to have to make quite a lot of these. Let's see, so we need 3 per 4k, which means that we need at least 9 to make 3 4k, so I think that should be just fine. Can we go ahead and make 3 of those, and then can we use that to make 1 of those? We totally can. Okay, cool. That was nowhere near as hard as I thought it was going to be, but now that we have all 3 of these items, what we should be able to do is put down our security terminal, let's say like there for now. That didn't quite go down how I wanted to go down. Let's say like that. There we go. Okay, so now if we open this up, we can put our wireless terminal up here in the top right. That is going to link it to this AE system. And now if we run over here, we can start charging this thing up in the energetic infuser. That's going to infuse it with some power because it does run out of power and you have to keep charging it up as you use it. And then finally, we have to put down the wireless access point. And this is the point of the system that the wireless terminal connects to. And so for now, I'm going to put this down right about here. And if we look inside, you'll see that there are slots for some wireless boosters. These are little cards over here that increase the range at which you can use the wireless terminal, because right now you'll see the range is set to 16 meters. If I was to go and grab my wireless terminal and right click on it, right now I can access everything in my AE system where I'm standing right now. I don't have to go to the crafting terminal there, but if I walk too far away, if I walk more than 16 meters away from the system, I'm out of the wireless range of that wireless access point. And so what we have to do here is make a few more of these wireless boosters. Each one of these you put into the wireless access point increases the range that you can use the wireless terminal at, but it also increases the amount of power that the AE system uses just to run. So to make this, we need one fluid extosed, one Certus quartz crystal, some more iron, and some ender pearl powder, which you can make by pulverizing up some ender pearls. So let's quickly grab some of those, throw them into the pulverizer over here. They shouldn't smelt up into anything, so I don't think it really matters if they go through into the redstone furnace, but we'll grab some of those, we'll throw them back into the AE system here. I'm not quite sure how far we're going to get the range to go with the wireless boosters, so we'll grab, like, we'll say 10 of these for now, and I'll see how much this increases the range by. If we put 10 in, that increases the range to 47.6 meters, which I believe 1 meter is 1 block, by the way, so I think that's like a 50 block radius. So if we come over here, we can still access everything from here. If we go a little bit further, we can still access everything from here. Let me quickly test it on the lower level, and I will go right out over to here. That is out of range, but that is in range. So I think for now that will do just fine. It looks like we can access our system from pretty much anywhere on the island. If we go over here, I think we're going to be out of range. If we go like all the way over here, no, we're not. Okay, cool. So we can access all of our stuff from within our AE system, from pretty much anywhere within the island right now, which is pretty awesome. And so, now that that's done, I want to get into the bulk of today's episode. So, up until now, we have been working, over the last 2 episodes, we have been working towards getting the Angel Ring from Extra Utilities to give us that creative mode flight ability. And to make this, between episodes, I did set up a bunch more auto crafting, and I taught my system how to make a bunch more items to make crafting this a lot easier. If we come over into the ME interface terminal, you'll see that our machines can create a bunch more stuff, but also if we go down to the molecular assemblers, you'll see that the molecular assemblers can also craft a bunch more stuff now, and you'll notice a lot of these items are familiar from the Angel Ring. You'll see down here, we've got the redstone flux pack, that's down here, we've got the resonant solar panel, which is over here, we've got the redstone solar panel. I haven't quite taught it yet how to make the resonant version, but I was looking through the recipe here, and we can make most of the stuff that is on the tech side of things, like all of the thermal expansion stuff, all of the solar expansion, simply jetpacks, industrial craft 2, all of that kind of stuff we can make fairly easily. However, when it comes to the thermostatic harness, our Britannia game is not where it needs to be. Right now, we have an extremely simple Britannia setup. We have just some endo flames with some mana spreaders pointing at a mana pool and a runic altar. And so before we can craft that thermostatic harness, we need to get our Britannia game up to stuff, because we need to make the Fugal Tiara, and to make this, we need 4 Gaia Spirits, 2 Elementium Ingots, 2 Feathers, and 1 Ender in a bottle. And if we want to get the Gaia Spirits or the Elementium Ingots, we need to set up a portal to the Alfheim, and to do that, if I go quickly into the Lexica Britannia here, and we type in Alfheim, the portal to the Alfheim requires this Elven Gateway core, and to make this, we need 4 Living Wood, 1 Primal Charm, 1 Ender Dew, 1 Soul of the World, 1 Magician's Blood Orb, and 1 Terra Steel Ingot. So, and we also need Terra Steel, by the way, in order to get the Gaia Spirits, we have to fight the Gaia, and so we need a lot of mana to get that Terra Steel. We also need to set up the infrastructure to actually get Terra Steel, because we haven't done any of that yet, and so we're actually quite far behind when it comes to Britannia. And so what I want to start with in today's episode is setting up a better way of generating mana, because right now we've got these Ender Flames, and although they work, they're not particularly great because they're not automated in any way. They produce a little bit of mana, but not a ton of mana. And so what I want to do is I want to make a flower called the Gourmarillis, this flower over here. And this flower, essentially, if we go through to the Lexica Britannia again, by the way, you do that by just hovering over the item and holding down control on your keyboard. But essentially, this flower, it says the Gourmarillis is one hungry flower. It'll eat up any food in a small area around it and turn it into mana. There's a catch though. It can only digest a single food item at any given time, The mana is created when it's done. Any other food it finds, it will devour, but not create any mana from it. The amount of time it takes to digest the delicacy depends on the nutritional value. In layman's terms, the amount of food points it restores. So, for example, steak will take 4 seconds, carrots will take 2, bread will take 2.5. The amount of mana created also makes use of this value, but in a way where the more nutritious the food is, the more efficient it is. For example, a single steak will produce more mana than 2 carrots, etc., etc. And so the reason why I chose to make this flour is because right now we have a very good source of food being generated for us, and we're not using anywhere near all of it. You can see right now we have 6,736 epic bacon sat in this cache, not really doing anything. If you look at the top there, the number is currently going down very slowly, but it is overall on the way up. It will eventually fill up because what it does is it crafts in batches of 64. Right now we're waiting for one of the dice here. I'm not quite sure which one, but when that die does arrive, it will craft 64 of them and take it back up to an even higher number than it was on originally. And so what I figured is that I would use the epic bacon here to feed the Gomarillas and provide us with a decent source of mana. So to make the Gomarillas, we need 2 light grey petals, 2 yellow petals, 1 red petal, 1 rune of the summer, and 1 rune of the fire. I did move all of my petals out of these chests over here and round into the AE system between episodes. We are having a little bit of an issue with the range by the looks of it. I think it has to do with the power situation. Yeah, our AE system is turning itself off pretty frequently. It's probably due to, yeah, this thing. I've just put some blocks of coals into here before the episode started. You'll see it's right now it's on a really low amount of steam and it's not really at its optimal temperature. And so we're probably using almost all of the power being generated by our steam dynamos here. The reason for that is that between episodes, I got rid of all of the logistics pipes. And when I did so, you'll see right here, we have some logistics pipes. When I did so, I broke this block here, which released some water, which went everywhere, which broke some of these tracks here, which stopped the tree farm, which meant that we weren't getting any coal being sent to the steam boiler, and so it started to drop in temperature, and this thing takes forever in order to get back up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. So we might be a little bit on and off in terms of the amount of power that we have during today's episode, but I'm hoping it shouldn't be too big of an issue. So for the Gomarillas, we need 2 light grey petals, which looks like all we've got. I might have to do a little bit more botanic fertilizing if I want to make more than 1 of these Gomarillas flowers during today's episode, which I do. We're also going to need some yellow petals. We need at least 2 of those. And then finally, we also need 1 red petal as well. We've got those in abundance, so we'll take those. As for the rune of fire, I think we might already have one from the last time we did this. We do. And then the rune of the summer is a 2nd tier rune, and what I mean by that is that it needs other runes in order to craft it. For this one, we need a rune of air and a rune of earth. I think, again, we made more air runes recently, and we should also have a rune of earth as well. We do. Good stuff. And then finally, to make the rune of summer, we need to craft those runes with an imbued slate, a melon, a slime, and 2 sand. So slime, we should again have in the system. We'll take some of that. Sand we have in abundance. Let's go ahead and grab some of that. As for the slate, I don't think... Whoa, we do. Okay, cool. I didn't think we had one of those slates. I thought we were going to have to do some stuff in the altar, but I will take it. And then finally, melon. I think we have some melon as well. We do. We can always grow more as well if we want to make more of these later on in today's episode. So, let's go ahead and see about crafting all of this stuff up. I'm hoping we have enough mana already in the mana pool over here for this to work. If we don't, we're going to have to throw some coal onto our endo flames. But, let's go slime ball, rune of air, rune of earth, imbued slate, as well as 2 sand. And the melon, of course, right at the end there. That's going to get us the rune of summer. We can then combine that rune of summer up with a rune of fire, as well as the petals in the petal apothecary. And I completely forgot about the fact that we are going to need some living rock in order to finish this thing up. So let's grab some of that and throw that on there. And we also need to get our wand of the forest, which I also completely forgot about. And it's not even in the AE system. It's actually on the wall over here. I should probably move all of these items that are on here into the AE system now, because that would make it a lot easier to access them instead of having to fly up and actually grab them off the wall every time. Boom! We can now right-click, and boom! We get the rune of summer as well as our rune of earth and rune of air back as well. Cool stuff. So we'll put you on. We don't want to do this in here. We want to do this in the petal apothecary. So let's fly on over to this guy. Let's throw in the rune of summer, rune of fire, and then 2 yellow, 2 light grey, 1 red. And if it would work, we need 1 more light grey. There we go. That's going to get us the Gomarillas. All we need to do is throw on some kind of seed. Let's just grab one of those and throw it in like so. And boom, we get ourselves the Gomaryllis. Nice. Now, as I read earlier from the Lexicon Britannia, this flower is a little bit picky in the way that it works. Unlike with the Endo Flames over here, where I can just throw a stack of coal onto the Endo Flames and walk away, and they will just take one coal at a time and continuously make a bunch of mana, the Gomaryllis doesn't really do that. It will take one piece of food, and then it will wait, and then release some mana a little bit later on, and if you put too much food on it, you're just basically throwing food away. It's not doing anything. For example, let me throw my Gomaryllis down, like right about there. Let's grab one of these mana spreaders. I'm going to take this one and put it down right above the Gomaryllis, right about there. And then we'll point that towards the mana pool, like so. That might be a little bit far away. We might have to put a lens on there that decreases the amount of mana that is lost over distance. But for now, let's link you to you, like so. And now, for example, if I throw down the Epic Bacon, you'll see that right away it's not producing any mana. No mana is being sent to the mana spreader. In fact, it takes about 9 seconds in order for the Gomaryllis to start producing mana with that Epic Bacon. The reason for that is because the Epic Bacon fills up 9 chicken legs worth of hunger, and so it takes 9 seconds before it can actually do anything. And if I was to throw down any more Epic Bacon in the meantime, it will eat it, but will not produce any more mana. So I just wasted a piece of Epic Bacon. You can see now it is producing mana, and then once it runs out of mana, you can again throw another piece of bacon on, and then it will eat it and wait 9 more seconds, and then produce a bunch of mana. I believe if I throw mana on right now, even though it's producing mana, it's still wasting it. That Epic Bacon that I just threw on is not going to get used to make mana. It's just a waste of Epic Bacon. And so in order to use the Gorillimus, and more importantly, in order to automate the Gorillimus, we're going to have to set up an automated system that times when it drops the Epic Bacon to make sure that we don't waste the Epic Bacon and that we get the most amount of mana that we possibly can. So to do this, I'm going to use a couple of items, the first of which is just a vanilla dropper from Minecraft. For this, we are going to have to come back to the ME crafting terminal. Unfortunately, you can't craft in the wireless access terminal. That would be pretty cool if you could, but unfortunately you can't. So I'm going to need to get a dropper. This is used to just simply drop the Epic Bacon down onto the flower, so we'll take one of those, and then we're also going to craft up an hourglass from Britannia. This is made with 4 gold, 2 redstone, 2 mana glass, and 1 mana steel. I'm not quite sure what I'm missing here. We're missing 1 mana glass and then 1 mana steel. So let me quickly go ahead and grab both of those. We should be able to make both of them over here in this mana pool. If we just go boom and boom, we can take both of those. And essentially, the hourglass is a timer. It will just emit a redstone signal every so often, depending on how you set it up. We could have also made an actual timer from Project Red, but this thing is actually from Britannia, and I thought it was a little bit more thematically fitting. So we'll take this, and we'll also take, I want to grab an export bus as well. We don't quite have one just yet, but essentially, you may have noticed that I had a storage bus on my Epic Bacon downstairs, and that is because I want my AE system to be able to access that Epic Bacon. If we type in Epic, you can see right now, our system can access all 7,600, I think that says, of Epic Bacon that we have. I wanted to be able to have that Epic Bacon and export it to the dropper so that the dropper has a constant supply of Epic Bacon that it can drop down onto the Gorillimus here. So let's see real quick. Let me grab some like cobblestone just to build with. My plan is to put down the dropper, say right about there. We're then going to put down the hourglass right about here. We can get rid of this. We can get rid of that cobblestone. We no longer need it. And then we're going to put an export bus probably right about there. We do have some dense cable just over here. And so what I'll probably end up doing is going like down under the floor with normal ME cable and then around and up to this export bus here. And we'll set this export bus to constantly keep the dropper filled with Epic Bacon. So I'll stick some Epic Bacon in there like so. Okay, so now that that's set up, our system should be sending Epic Bacon round to this dropper, and then all we need to do now is actually set up the hourglass. So the way this works is you put sand into the hovering hourglass, and it will set the hourglass to a certain amount of time, and you can use either red sand, soul sand, or normal sand. Normal sand equates to 1 second, red sand I think is 10 seconds, and soul sand is a minute. So for us, we're going to want to grab a little bit of red sand, and our system is still playing up a little bit, so it's in range, but the further away we go, the more power it uses to actually work. So if we stand closer, we can just grab some sand from in here. We're going to use normal sand, and we're going to put 20 normal sand into the system here. So it's going to wait 20 seconds between every time that it drops Epic Bacon onto the flower. And the reason for that is that it takes about 9 seconds to digest the Epic Bacon, then about 10 more seconds to send all of the mana that it generates through and to the mana pool. So if we put 20 sand into here like so, that is going to run down. Once it runs down, the dropper is going to drop 1 piece of Epic Bacon. The Gorillimus is then going to start digesting it. 9 seconds later, it's going to start sending mana mana through to the mana spreader, which is going to go across into the mana pool. Once it's sent all of the mana through, the timer should be out and it should drop again. You can see right now it's set to 20 seconds. So there we go, it dropped one. If we wait like about 9 more seconds, this should start producing some mana. There it goes, it's now producing mana, sending it to the mana spreader and across to the mana pool. We've got about 10-11 seconds left there. As soon as this runs out, this should drop. It dropped a little bit quick. We should add some more sand. Okay, so let's go with maybe about 25. I will try 25 and see if that... You know what, let's go 25. I'll put 25 in there and we'll see if that works. Okay, so in my testing world, it worked on a 20-second timer, but in this world, I think the mana pool is a little bit further away, and also, I was using these potency lenses in my testing world as well, so this thing will now send more mana at any given time. So to make up for the distance, I am going to put this again back in at 25. Let's give this a test and see if the potency lens actually makes a significant difference. Okay, so a little bit of testing and tweaking later, and I found that 38 seconds works about right for the setup that I have here. 1 Gorilla Mist, 1 mana spreader, with a potency lens, sending the mana through to a mana pool about this distance away. If you want to set up something similar, you might have to tinker with it just to try and find the time that works for your setup. Right now, you can see the Gorilla Mist is empty. It drops one down. It did... Yeah, there we go. It dropped one down. Okay. I might look into moving this mana spreader forward a little bit because the Gorilla Mist can actually send mana to the mana spreader for quite a distance. And if you move it closer, it will probably send mana a bit faster. And so we can probably get this time down and increase the amount of mana that we produce. But what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to go away. I'm going to make a bunch more of these Gorilla Mists. I say a bunch more. Probably maybe 3 or 4 more and set them up kind of in a row over here. We're going to have the exact same setup. Dropper with a hovering hourglass with all of them. We're going to have the export buses. I might change this up. I might put the export bus onto like a chest and then have that chest pipe around to all of the droppers just to save on channels. But I'm going to go away. I'm going to replicate this setup a few more times. And I'll be back in a second. And quite a long time later, we now have 4 more of these Gorilla Mist flowers, a bunch more mana spreaders. And as you can see, we are producing a ton of mana. This one here is full, and what I've gone ahead and done is if you open up the Lexicon Britannia and go to the section for the portal of the Alfheim, you can actually visualize what the portal is going to look like to just get an idea of the amount of space you're going to need for the actual portal itself. And if you just right click on the ground somewhere, it will actually like lock it in place. And what I've done, that's actually in the wrong place. I want to have it one more further back, so about there, like that. Basically what I've done is I put down 2 more mana pools where the portal to the Alfheim is going to go, and so now when we make the portal next episode, we should just be able to access it. We shouldn't have to wait for the portals to fill up with mana, and the reason why I've done this is because this thing filled up so quickly that I kind of wanted to get the mana out so that we weren't wasting all of our epic bacon. I should probably look into a way of turning the system off, quite possibly, but for now we'll leave it running, and as you can see, it's producing quite a bit of mana. And what I want to do now is I want to automate another part of Britannia, because I don't really want to work on the portal just yet. It requires a ton of stuff that we'll look into next episode, but I want to automate a bunch of different aspects from Britannia, starting with the most simple aspect. And by the way, I'm not quite sure what's up with the like the visualization when you walk behind it. If I stand behind it over here, I can see it just fine, but at certain angles it seems to disappear. I'm not quite sure what's up with that. But to start with, I want to automate the production of Living Rock, because we use Living Rock a lot. We use it to make mana spreaders. We use it to activate every single rune that we make with the runic altar. And so what I want to do over here is I want to automate the production of Living Rock. And so what I've done is I've grabbed a couple of items here, mostly block placers and block breakers. And essentially what we're going to have here is we're going to have a bunch of block placers in the ground, and they're going to be set on a timer to place down stone about once every minute, because that's how long it takes the pure daisy to turn a normal piece of stone into some living rock. So let's put our block placers down right about here. We want it to be able to place 8 blocks of stone around what is going to be the pure daisy, and then in these spots where I've put the grass over here, these are going to be the block breakers, and they are going to also be set up to a timer that's a little bit offset from the timer for the placers, because about a second before we place down the stone, we want to have broken any living rock that is already there. And so we're going to have a timer that breaks all of the living rock, and then 1 second later places down all of the new stone, and then of course a minute after that the block breakers will activate again, the block placers will place again, and the cycle will just continue, making us hopefully a nice infinite supply of living rock. So let me reorientate that like that. Now the way that I want to automate this, I've got some red alloy wire here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dig out a hole around all of these block placers underneath, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the red alloy wire go all the way around the block placers like this. And by the way, the red alloy wire is really easy to make. It's just 3 red alloy ingots, and to make these, you just smelt up 1 red iron compound, which is made with redstone and iron, and essentially, this is just redstone, but you can place it down like this. You can't place normal redstone on the side of blocks, so it's actually a lot more beneficial for the setup that we're going to have right here. So let me quickly run this red alloy wire around all of these block places. And then once that's done, I also want to run some red alloy wire around all of the block breakers. And once we've done that, once we've got the red alloy wire around all of the block breakers and all of the block placers, we need to get ourselves a timer and a redstone repeater. So this time around, I think I will use the timer from Project Red, and I will also use the repeater from Project Red as well. And so to make these, we need a bunch of these circuit plates and then redstone. And the circuit plates are made by smelting up normal stone. So let's go ahead and grab some of that and stick it into our redstone furnace. And essentially all of the components for both the timer and the redstone repeater are just these circuit plates with either redstone or redstone torches. So I'm going to quickly whip up a timer and a redstone repeater. And so now that we've got the timer and the repeater, what we're going to do is we're going to have the timer go down right about here, and by default, I'm going to set this to about 65 seconds. I think it takes about a minute for stone to turn into living rock, but we'll give it a bit of leeway. We'll put an extra 5 seconds on there, and we're going to have the red alloy wire run across and around to here. So this is going to activate all of the block breakers, and then what we want to do is we want to have this run down and then around. So we're going to have it go kind of under here, and then you can actually put these repeaters upside down like this. I'm going to have that run down into the repeater, and then that repeater is going to run up and around and to all of the places. And all we're going to do is, you can see at the top there, it says repeater 1 tick. I'm going to move this up to about 16 ticks, which is about a second in Minecraft. There are 20 ticks per second, so it's just shy of a second. And so what's going to happen here is when this timer actually hits a minute, so when this activates, it's going to send a redstone signal to all of the breakers to break everything that is there. And just to kind of show this off, I'll put down a bunch of dirt where the living rock's going to be. It's going to break all of that living rock, and then underneath all of the places, and again, I'll put some stone in here just to kind of show how this is going to work, all of the places, about a second later, just shy of a second later, she'll place down a bunch of stone, and then that stone will begin. So that was a little bit too slow. We might want to put the delay on the redstone repeater here a little higher. I'll put it up to 32 ticks, and we'll see if that works. So here and here both have the blocks in it. So let me do this, and then let's lower this a little bit just to see if we can get this to work. It didn't quite want to work there either. I'm wondering if this is activating correctly. Let me keep an eye on this down here. Let's see if this is working how I want it to. Okay, so this isn't actually quite working right, because you can see in is on the right and out is on the left. We want this to be the other way around. We want to make sure that in is going on this side. There we go. And we want out on the other side. So again, I think 20 ticks or 16 ticks should be about right. Let's try this one more time. We'll put dirt here and here. And now the redstone signal should break the blocks and then pulse through and place the stone underneath. There we go. That didn't quite work as intended, because it looks like... Yeah, okay, so what's happened here is this redstone signal has triggered this block breaker, which is not what we wanted it to do. So let me quickly move all of this red alloy wire to the bottom of the block places. There we go. Okay, so now it's working as intended. All I've done is move the red alloy wire down one. I had to move this down one as well, because that was triggering, I think, this one over here. I'm not quite sure why, but that seems to be what was happening there. And so now we have a system that will break and place the blocks when we want it to happen. So all we need to do now is, again, up this to about 65 seconds, like so. Make sure that instead of using cobblestone, we're using actual normal stone. Again, I'm going to have to wait now, because if I put it down too early, what's going to happen is it's going to break the stone, and it's not going to become a living rock. So let's come over here, let's grab one of our pure daisies, and then let's throw this down in the center of where all of the stone is going to get placed, and let's see if this works as we want it to. So we've got quite a while before that ticks over, so let me put at least 1 stone, actually let's put 2 stone into all of here so we can see if the full cycle actually works. Okay, so the timer is about to tick over. Once it ticks over, the block breakers will break, the places will place, and now if we wait for that timer to run down again, it should turn into living rock just before the timer hits. The block breakers break. and the block placers place. Nice! So we now have a almost fully automated way of producing living rock. We can set this up, and all we need to do now is ensure that we have a constant supply of stone being provided to the placers down here, and we need a way of actually collecting all of the living rock that does drop. And so what we're going to do is I've got myself a vacuum hopper. If we put this here, when the living rock does break, it will just end up inside of the vacuum hopper like so. And then what I'll probably end up doing here is putting down a cache. Let's grab one of these. If we put that directly on top of it like so, and then we set the top of this to be an output like that. That's going to output all of the living rock to the top, and then I'll just put a storage bus onto this from Applied Energistics so that our AE system can access all of this living rock. And now all we need to do is set up a way of putting stone automatically into these block places. And so what we're going to do is we're going to head back to the crafting terminal real quick and craft ourselves an export bus and tell our system to export stone into a chest, which will then pump around into the block places. So let's have a look here. Do we have what it takes to make an export bus? I think we should, and we do, so we'll take this. We're also going to need some item ducts. Do we already have some item ducts lying around? We do. We've got 8. I think we're going to need a few more than 8, so let me go ahead and grab a couple more of those as well. We are missing some hardened glass and some tin plates. Thankfully, we should be able to auto-craft both of those, although it will take a little bit of time here. We do currently only have one of these CPU cores, so we can actually only request one thing be crafted at any given time, so I actually can't request any hardened glass just yet. But let's also grab a chest whilst we're waiting, and let's also get some ME glass cable. We've got 3. That is nowhere near enough. I think we are actually out of Certus quartz dust. We completely are, yeah. So let me go ahead and grab some of this, and let's pulverize that up. While we're waiting for that to pulverize up, the plates should be pretty much done. It shouldn't take too long for those tin plates to craft, and it doesn't. Cool stuff. So let's go back to item ducts. Let's request the hardened glass. We'll just take one of you next and start. That shouldn't also take that long to craft up. Let's grab our Certus quartz dust, and let's see about making some more ME glass cable real quick. So ME glass cable, we need to make ourselves some more of the quartz fiber. Fairly easy stuff. Once we got that, we can craft it with the flux crystals. That's going to get us a bunch of ME cable. And now, if we go back over finally again to the item ducts, we should be able to make another set of those like so. Cool stuff. We will also grab a servo so we can pull the stone through the item ducts. And then finally, the last thing that I'm going to make is the crafting card upgrade for the export bus. This is made with a crafting table and a basic card, much in the same way as the acceleration cards that we made a few episodes back, I think, for the import bus on this chest over here. And essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to put a chest directly below all of the block places. So let's say we put it right about there, and then this chest is going to have an export bus on it like so, and then out of this chest we're going to use the item ducts to pull all of these items out and around and to all of the block places. Now we do want to make sure, I don't think you can put stuff into block breakers, so I don't think that the stone will try to go in there, but if it does, we can go through with our wrench and just make sure that the top there is not connected like so. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have this export bus right about here, and if you put a crafting card into an export bus, that tells your system to craft the item if it doesn't have it already. So for example, if I was to grab some stone, and we're a little bit outside of the wireless range, if I was to grab some stone, we don't have any, but our system does know how to craft it. It knows to send cobblestone to the redstone furnace, and that will send back normal stone. And so what the crafting card does in the export bus is it tells our system to put stone into that chest, and if it doesn't have stone, it tells it to craft stone by any means that it knows how. And so what's going to happen is this chest is going to get filled up with stone, and then every time the block placers place down 8 stone is then going to get pulled out of this chest, sent around, put in all the block placers, and the system, the AE system, is going to craft up 8 more stone to replace it. Pretty cool stuff. So, to actually get this to work, we do need to set this to ignore. So, that's going to pull the stone out and put it in all of the places. But we also need to quickly hook this up to our AE system, like so. And then finally, we need to make another storage bus, because I believe right now that our cobblestone is, our cobblestone's actually not hooked up to the system. So, as of right now, if I was to type in cobblestone, we don't have any cobblestone in the system. So, let me quickly grab another storage bus and stick it onto that storage drawer. And now that cobblestone's hooked up, we can go back into our crafting terminal. If we type in cobblestone, the cobblestone is there, and if we go to the crafting status, right now you'll see that it's crafting stone, and that crafting status will constantly be there there, or should I say almost constantly be there, as long as that export bus is requesting cobblestone, which it will be doing for quite some time right now, because we need to actually fill the initial chest with cobblestone. So what I'm going to do real quick here is actually break this up, because right now we've got two 1k crafting storages acting as one 2k crafting storage, if that makes any sense. But what I'm going to do instead here is I'm just going to move this to, let's say, like here maybe for now, because we've got a bunch of spare channels on this P2P tunnel. So I put that there, and we go back into our system, and we were to say request some more of these tin plates. We should now be able to do it, because we now have a spare CPU. One of them is being used to make the stone, and the other one is being used to make the tin plate. So we are going to have this one, which is right now just going to be dedicated to making stone. And if we head on down to the redstone furnace, you can see it is online. It just finished smelting up some stone. That will have been sent around to the chest with the export bus. And now all we need to do is actually craft up a couple more item ducts. And now if we put these down here and here and here, these now should start to pull the stone out of here, send it around to all of the red ally wire. This thing doesn't have a round robin mode on it because it's not quite a high enough tier of server. But essentially it's going to go through, it's going to pump stone into all of these. We're only using 8 stone per minute with this setup here, so I'm fairly certain we'll be able to fill this chest up pretty quickly, because we'll be able to smelt up more than 8 stone per minute. And so the system should eventually catch up on itself. But for now, all of the ones that do have stone in it, which is looking like it's just going to be this one for the time being, we'll essentially just put down the stone, wait a minute, the block breaker will break it. Eventually, all of the block places will fill up with stone, the block breakers will break them, and we will have a nice unlimited source of living rock, which, like I said, I will hook up with a storage bus between episodes, so that next time we can come back and we can automate the runic altar over here, which is one of the main reasons why I automated living rock, because in order to automate the process of crafting runes, we need to have a good supply of living rock so we can drop the living rock on them at the end and then finish up the craft with a right click from the wand of the forest. But that is for next episode. So for now, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit like. Next time we'll come back, we will automate the process of crafting runes in the runic altar. We'll look at possibly getting the portal to the Alfheim setup. It is a crazy crafting recipe that requires a bunch of stuff from Witchery and Britannia, and I think a little bit of Thorncraft as well. It requires a ton of stuff, but we'll look into that. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit like. It really does help out a lot, and I will see you guys next time.